Good to go.
Welcome again. As Hugh Crizel said, we're good to go with Bob Johnson, who's with us, and with a very attractive companion. Bob, can you introduce our special guest?
Our special guest today is Carrie Wazaluk. She's my partner, new partner in Tomorrow's Hope.
Now, you have been in the media over the last several months doing so much for those who are disadvantaged in our community, those that are largely forgotten, it seems. And now there's been some critical comments directed at you because of your enthusiasm. And some people have said, how come Bob is so involved? Why are you so involved?
I'm so involved because I understand the meaning of where these people are coming from. When the virus started, nobody stepped up to the plate. They were stuck on the streets 6 weeks, no clothes, no washrooms, no showers, no drinking water, no bathrooms. They were actually literally using Elgin Street.
So how is that possible? You know, this is 2020. I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, but nevertheless, to have these basic amenities not available to these individuals seems, it just doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, it's unhuman. Basically, the plan for the greater city of Sudbury in an emergency situation was written in 2006. It had no homelessness. It had no mental health or addictions in it. So basically, moving forward, everybody got caught with their pants down. I was familiar with the homeless, what they need, and basically I had to step up and give them the guidance and direction to treat them as human beings as I watched them go through hell and through the cracks of all the systems in Sudbury.
Hugh, I know that we represent a segment of the population, which
Yes,
I know that the Councillor Kerwin in an article last week, he put down the numbers, which are really substantial. You know, we're looking at a large segment of our population are seniors, but how many, Bob, on the street are actually older folks?
I would say about 20% of the population is over the 55 mark.
Mm-hmm.
but we don't want to discriminate between older adults and others, because let's face it, I think we've talked about this before. Everybody on the street is somebody's son or daughter, somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's cousin, somebody's nephew. We're all connected, but we are focused on the older adult population. And if 20% of them are older adults, what can CARP do? What can CARP Sudbury do to help? Carrie?
That's a loaded question.
I know.
So I'm going to just cut in here. What I would be doing is CARP reaching out for Tomorrow's Hope. We could actually plan an outing, and we could go out and actually I could introduce you to some of these people. And the key to the homelessness, the seniors especially, is because they've already built their own ways and so on, is to build a relationship. And unless you have that relationship built and it's solid, you're going to go nowhere. So I spent the last 3 months building up that extra relationship. Carrie came on board. She's been with me for about 6 weeks now. She wasn't through the tragedy, what they actually went through at the beginning. But I think if CARP actually wanted to come out with us, meet some of their seniors and so on, understand what their beliefs are, what direction they want to go, it would be totally awesome. And I'd be glad.
Now, Carrie, we might have to do some of that electronically at the beginning. I mean, Bob, I don't know. Carrie, you're on the street, you're having contact, and it would all be very much, people's approval or authority to, yeah, you can videotape me, yeah, you can interview me, because we can't invade people's, no matter what situation they're in, we can't invade their lifestyle, but their choices.
Okay, so since I've started this journey on March the 1st, yes, I've put out a lot of pictures, a lot of videos on Facebook. Those were all, they were all granted permission, okay? These people out there, and it's starting to get worse now because of the weather is nice, and they're going out into the bush and so on and making their tents. But at the beginning, I had 65% who wanted to come off the street, get housing, and so on and so on. But due to the lack of the communication and the holes in the system from the city of Sudbury, it all fell through. So basically now, excuse me, to go out on the street, these people want help. These people don't care if you take their picture. These people don't care if you do a video. They want help. They're crying for it. But you know what? Nobody can understand it because there's a lot of people who don't actually leave their office.
Mhm.
So unless you're on the street, you're never going to understand them, and you're never going to build that relationship. And
Are you saying too, Bob, that come September, October, November, we're going to see we're going to see some of the people we haven't seen because they've been out in the bush?
correct?
Wow.
So I can name, but I won't, due to the Privacy Act. But I know 8 locations from downtown in the surrounding area where they're living in the bush. They're living in tents, they're living by a creek, they're living behind a shopping center. And it's so sad because some of these people I've had housed, but my hands were tied when it came down to reality, actually which direction I could go.
Mhm. So if there were, Carrie, if I could ask you, because you've been involved for 6 weeks now, is that correct?
Yes.
So what have been your impressions being out there on the street, seeing what's going on? Bob's
I
been
just wanted,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to step into the last question or the last comment about the pictures. Every time there was any pictures that were taken, it wasn't just sneaking pictures. Like
No, of course not. No. I wasn't suggesting that. I wanted to make sure, because there are people who've done photo documentation of
yeah,
and homelessness in Sudbury, but again, with people's approval.
it's definitely well respected. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to clear
No,
that.
we need to put a face on. We need to know who these. We need to know them.
Yes. Because
So
sometimes even when you see them walking around, you don't even think that they're homeless.
that's true. Yeah,
No.
that's true. Well, Carrie, going back to my question, you were in Edmonton, I believe. You're a professional. But this was your first opportunity in Sudbury to see actually what was going on, and your impressions of Sudbury. Compared to other communities.
Sudbury is turning into like a big city. The population's getting a lot bigger. There's no room for anyone to go. When compared to, I hate to compare to Edmonton, but comparing it to that, we are getting very close. And like people are hiding in the bushes, and those are the people that are unseen.
That's true. They say that Sudbury's population itself is not growing, but this segment of the population is growing. And I know, Bob, you're involved with the drug situation as well. And I think you mentioned when we talked earlier on that we know from Timmins just recently that 6 individuals overdosed, 3 died. Is this a similar situation in the Sudbury area? Is this a growing concern?
Very, very. It's doubling every month, basically. I will not put out the numbers right now because my numbers are true, but I just don't want to cause a ripple effect on anything. Me and Carrie usually are out. We're both addiction counselors too, by the way.
Right.
And we do the street quite often. And we've seen the overdoses and so on going on. And it's pretty sad. Like I really feel sorry for these paramedics who are basically lost on the streets right now because they're so busy with these overdoses. And Carrie's going to explain a little bit about the Narcan kits and so on moving forward and what kind of drugs are actually on the street.
So we do have the naloxone kits, and there is the one, I don't have it with me, but I have the 2 of them that I am trained for. I have the
That's
one
a nasal. That's a nasal spray, is it?
So one is a nasal, and there's another one that's for injections. So there will be the time that if you do give them the nasal spray, it's not enough. and you're going to need to inject them. And sometimes that's not even enough. Like they are so high that you can't even, it's impossible to bring them down. And so you're using a lot of doses. And unfortunately, there's not enough people trained on naloxone that are actually working the streets downtown that need the training. And I would recommend them having that training.
Mhm. Well,
I
this
was
was
actually
not,
looking for one. I have one here
you have
right
one there?
beside me, but I can't dig it up.
Well, that's what, you don't take that many drugs anyway, Hugh, but I'm just wondering,
No, but
the,
I was trained in it myself, actually.
but the actual age, now Hugh and I are not as young as we used to be, but it would seem that the problems with respect to drugs seem to be for a younger age group, younger cohort.
Disagree with you, sir.
No,
Yeah.
this isn't the case? No,
No.
So it's scattered.
really?
It's
Yeah,
a wide variety.
that used to be the case maybe 6 years ago, but not today.
So it's a broader spectrum now.
Yes. And it's you're getting older and you're even getting younger. There's like kids as young as 14 that are on the streets and they have no clue what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I will tell you this. The youngest one we did lose in an overdose with death is 14 years old.
Here in Sudbury.
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking.
Somebody's grandchild.
Yeah. No, these as yeah. Well, as Hugh mentioned, these are all related. Somebody's got mother, father, uncle, aunt, grandparents, and all that. So regardless of the age, it's now I'm just trying to wrap my head around this about the cause, because as Bob, you said, it wasn't as bad, going back 6 or so years, but now it seems to be growing. Is this because of the availability? Is it a social economic situation? Is there a role that we as citizens or the government has to play that can do something in this regard?
Well, yeah, for sure. I might cut my throat right now, but a lot of the organizations are top heavy and they're in the office compared to somebody who's street level and dealing with these people one-on-one, where these are actually humans and not numbers.
Mm-hmm. Is the closure of the schools, are the schools failing us? I mean, are we not providing enough education at the younger grades to help people? Are we not identifying kids with FASD, with homes that are, I mean, where do we have to start, Bob?
Well, we basically have to start with parenting. Basically, there again, people need the $1 million houses where both parents are working. They don't even know what their upstairs looks like because they're never up there because they're working to pay for this house. They go to camp on the weekends with their sea-doos and everything else. And one thing, when I see even this virus, what happened, you look at it two different ways. Number one, parents were staying home with their kids. Fine, great. But what about the abuse in the families too? Would also stay at home, right? So where do you go with this? And then through this virus, it was, well, go online for this and go online for that. Well, number one, if you go to the homeless, they don't have computers in their back pockets. No. If you go to spousal abuse or children abuse, where do they get the opportunity to call in somebody? Because you have to go online or whatever, and you're basically in your situation, which is very poor and negative. So your surroundings is not a safe environment. What do? Yeah. You're lost.
Well, a lot of kids go and live with their grandparents, at least for a time. Grandparents aren't prepared to deal with things.
Yeah. So we really have the crisis the pandemic has created, crises in other areas. And we know, if we can just talk about the homeless, I know with respect to the addictions, I was chair of the addiction workers a number of years going way back, when we had two main addictions. One is alcohol and prescription drugs. The other drugs didn't matter at all. They weren't in the equation. We didn't have the suicides. We didn't have the horror stories that we hear. But since then, we can see these drugs, which were basically prescription drugs, and now are manufactured offshore, and what effect they're having. I don't think it's something that, that we can solve right now. But the homeless, with respect to Sudbury and the homeless, Bob, what can we really do? Would it be cost effective to provide them, our homeless people, with an actual home?
Okay, so what the problem is nobody understands the homeless, basically through our city council and so on. Okay, they do not understand the homeless or the mental health or addictions on the street level. What we have to do is get rid of these band-aid solutions. Okay, what is the actual solid solution of the core of the problem to move forward in a positive way? Well, number one, it's their housing. Number two, it's their life skills. Number three, they have to be shown love and care and that they are somebody compared to these numbers or this rock in the corner in a parking lot on Elgin Street. Okay, these are actually humans. Once you get to meet them, actually, I got about 3 of them on the street right now who I would say are pretty good I could call one of my closer friends. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 of them who I trust. One of them actually saved a guy's life with me with the Narcan kit. And yeah, it was great. It was great. And I wasn't expecting that. But these are not, most of them are very intelligent. They just need that little bit of care, affection, and love.
Now, you talked about a place to be, a place to I was shocked. I mean, I read about it in the newspaper. I hadn't been downtown to see it, but I mean, I can remember, I believe my father was involved in raising money for the Salvation Army to build that building downtown. And it's gone now. It's another space that somehow somebody decided that it wasn't required. I don't remember how many beds there were. John, you might remember that, but it's another space that's gone.
Yeah.
I don't know how this happened.
So, for example, and this all started sliding with that Salvation Army building about 7 years ago when they closed the addiction site. Okay, yeah. They had 15 beds up there. It was a great program and so on and so on. They closed it due to the lack of funding. Then the the shelter started disappearing and going downhill. They closed the youth center on Cedar Street, Cedar Place, Cedar Youth. Yeah. And then as of last week, the Salvation Army just lost a thrift store. So, yeah, we're closing the wrong places, to be honest.
Now, Carrie, was this the case in Edmonton as well? But let's face it, what happens in Sudbury is not always just a Sudbury issue. We are a bit of a magnet. So Edmonton was always a magnet for Northern Alberta, Northern Saskatchewan. Sudbury's a magnet for all of Northeastern Ontario and Northwestern Ontario.
Yes, no, Edmonton was, I hate to say it, a lot more organized. There was a lot more availability. They did not shut down all these places that, like, for example, the Good Samaritan, that was a horrible, horrible choice, unless it needed to be done. But even if they're going to do that, they need to reopen something else to reinstate that. And it's not happening. So it's like, okay, well, let's close all these things and let's let people out of jail and let's do this and do that, and then wonder why we have all these people on the streets. Mm-hmm. Like, there is a reason for it, and no one is thinking about it.
So how do we get this front and center? What can be done?
We need to focus on getting these people some housing, and I hate to say people, like the homeless, the people, us human beings that are not able to afford life itself. Mm-hmm. Like, groceries are going up, rent is going up. How do they afford that? But yet they take away employment and they take away that. Well, there's got to be some give and take. All it is take. There's no give.
Now, we've talked about the Motel. We talked, offline and before ourselves. We talked about the Cardinal Motel, or what it used to be. That's being used for how many people at this time, Bob?
Right now, it's at about 62%. They can hold up to 40 people. Okay. But right from day one, I called that wrong. We needed a 24/7 shelter.
Right,
where
because
the
they can't stay all day, right? They
no,
have, yeah.
so they can come in at 10 o'clock at night. They're out at 10:30 in the morning. And there again, they're hauling that 100-pound pack sack from Regent Street downtown, and wherever they go from downtown, there's no storage or nothing, so they're hauling it all through, right? It's very frustrating.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does seem to be dumb, really. I mean, there must be a better way to handle this sort of thing, and we only have about a minute or two left. But so, what direction should we be taking, and what can we as the seniors group be involved? What type of is there a way of holding a task force or a special council directive on this sort of thing? It's been swept under the rug for so long, and we've lost so much. How do we get back to what even we had before, and how do we do that?
Well, the key is, I mean, we'd have to sit down with you, okay? And it's going to take team playing. It's not just one organization who's better than the other, whatever. It's all team playing. Like I said, me and Carrie would like to invite you guys out. Yes, we can follow the 6-foot distancing and everything else. See, with us, sometimes we have to break that 6-foot distance, because when it comes down to saving a life, that's one rule what we got to break. We have no choice.
Mm.
And one other thing what we'd like to say is that we're all facts and honesty. And we hope that we never stepped on anybody's feet through this interview, but it's got to be said, and people got to realize exactly what's happening on our streets and our homeless.
So what you're saying is
Before we go,
you can make better use of the resources we already have, plus add some others that would make the situation better. That's what you're basically saying, I think.
Yes.
Before we go to, a lot of people are using the internet to find out more. Bob, Carrie, is there somewhere that we can direct people who are watching this to go to learn more about what's happening in homelessness and in homelessness conditions here in Sudbury?
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that, because me and Carrie have been working on a video for 6 weeks. I can give you a few details of it's going to be from March 1st on, what the actual homeless went through, step by step. Ashley Woodruff, who's a great singer in Sudbury and recorder with Rob Murphy, has come up with a song, The Alert, What About Us, from Pink. Bertrand Productions is on board with us. And we're going to be doing a professional video, probably about 15 minutes long. And we're going to be sending it out. And we want people to really, really look at this carefully and realize what life's all about.
Right.
So you're really trying to what we're trying to do here is illuminate an issue and hopefully direct people to be aware of the growing trends that are happening here in Sudbury and across Canada, really. John, I want to thank you very much for doing this. You continually organize and bring in people to talk to. And Carrie, welcome to Sudbury. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Bob, your passion is very, very clear. John, some finishing comments?
Well, I just want to, commend Bob, because as I mentioned at the very beginning, he's suffered some slings and arrows of outrageous fortune from various quarters, and it's unfortunately hasn't had the support. But there's many out there who do really definitely appreciate what Bob's doing. And as what's the expression? We're all our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper,
our grandchildren's
keeper. Yeah, I can go on and on to be politically correct. But Carrie, wonderful to have you here, and Bob as well too. We're looking forward to that film when it comes out.
Excellent. We're going to send you a copy, and so tomorrow's hope. Now we'll be moving forward in a positive way. Very thankful to have Carrie on board, and it looks very positive.
Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye for now.
Take care.
Bye, folks.
Bye.